Why does a chocolate cost more every year? There are three economic forces driving prices: demand pull, cost push, and imported inflation. Each pushes prices higher in different ways. Today, we're breaking down all three with the use of AD and AS graphs. I'll walk you through 2 multiple choice questions from past papers. Let's get started. What is inflation? Inflation is a sustained rise in the general level of prices of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. Our first cause, demand pull inflation. Inflation caused by an increase in the aggregate demand, that's the total demand for goods and services. An increase in aggregate demand will cause prices to increase and inflation to rise if firms are unable to increase the supply of goods and services at the same rate as demand. So your supply is less than your demand. The formula for aggregate demand is C+I+G+X-M. C stands for consumer expenditure. I stands for investment expenditure by businesses. G, or sometimes called GS, is government expenditure. And X minus M is the difference between export and import. If C increases, I increases, G increases, or X increases, it will cause aggregate demand to increase. What does not cause aggregate demand to increase is if imports are increasing, then aggregate demand will decrease. For demand pull inflation, we have aggregate demand increasing, shifting to the right, and thus leading to the price level increasing from P to P1. Cost push inflation. Inflation caused by a higher cost feeding into higher prices. Higher costs are the result of an increase in the cost of factors of production. Example, wages. Firms may pass these cost increases on to consumers in the form of higher selling prices. With cost push inflation, we have aggregate supply decreasing, so shifting to the left from AS to AS1, and this will cause the price level to increase from P to P1. Imported inflation is also part of cost push inflation. Rising prices in one country may be exported to other countries through international trade. Rising import prices may cause imported inflation, as well as a depreciating exchange rate, and tariffs can cause imports to become very expensive. Let's look at our first multiple choice question. Which changes are likely to lead to the biggest increase in inflation in country X? We are faced with 4 options, A, B, C, and D. Which one is the right answer? Time to think. The answer is C. How did I get to C? Let's look at option A. If there is a 5% decrease in demand for goods and services and a 5% decrease in the supply in country X, this won't cause inflation. It will actually cause aggregate demand to decrease. Option B. A 5% decrease in demand for goods and services in country X and a 5% increase in the supply of goods and services in country X. This will actually cause deflation. Deflation is when inflation goes below zero. Remember, for inflation to happen, aggregate demand needs to increase and aggregate supply needs to decrease. Option D, a 5% increase in the demand for goods and services in country X and a 5% increase in the supply of goods and services in country X. Now you will see that I have an increase. In this case, the two are matching each other and there is no inflation. So in other words, supply is matching the demand. Now, why is C the answer? Our original aggregate demand and aggregate supply curves and our general price level. Now for C, they said a 5% increase in demand and a 5% decrease in supply. There's a 5% increase in aggregate demand shifting to the right. That's an increase in aggregate demand. And the other one is supply decreasing by 5%, shifting AS to AS1, so a left shift, a decrease in supply. And when we put the two together, you will see that this causes the price level to increase and our new equilibrium point to be at E1, not E anymore, but E1, and that's inflation. Our second multiple choice question, what is a possible cause of demand pull inflation? Let's look at our options. options. A, an increase in government expenditure not matched by a rise in taxation. B, an increase in the price of oil not matched by a fall in the cost of raw materials. C, a rise in imports not matched by a rise in exports. And D, a rise in wages not matched by an increase in productivity. Time to think. What is the answer? The answer is A. How did I get to A? A, an increase in government expenditure not matched by a rise in taxation will cause G, my government expenditure, to increase. Remember, if any of the components C, I, G, or X increases, it can cause aggregate demand to increase. Let's look at B and why it's incorrect. An increase in the price of oil not matched by a fall in the cost of raw materials. This will affect AS. Demand pull inflation is when aggregate demand exceeds aggregate supply. We're looking at a situation where aggregate demand is increasing. Option C, a rise in imports not matched by a rise in exports. Again, our formula, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. In this case, imports are increasing. This will reduce aggregate demand. Option D, a rise in wages not matched by an increase in productivity. This will affect AS, not AD. So this will be incorrect. For those of you interested in these PowerPoint presentations, I will be making them available on my community. I will share a link in the description. YouTube believes you'd like this other video, so be sure to check it out as well. See you in the next one. Bye bye.